Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, today we'll get a bit of history, which was new to me, and we'll have a former member talk about that, about some successful bipartisan effort back in 1988, 89, the last time we had a threat which actually pales in terms of today's threat to the survival of elephants in the wild in Africa. And after the Congress came together on a bipartisan basis back then, the price of ivory tanked to about $5 a pound. We made it like blood diamonds for a while. And now it's more than 200 times that. It's about 225 times that. So some of these terrorist groups can, of course, there was an incredible slaughter of 300 elephants in one day last year with poisoning. But one elephant can finance a lot of ammunition for them and other weapons and things for a not particularly long period of time. There is going to be major action taken by the U.S. and major action to motivate other countries to take action. This rule, it is an extraordinarily broad rule. There's still refining parts of it, and how are you going to tell what's legitimate and what isn't? It's very problematic. We're going to have to go after the middlemen, the source, the other major consumers, but we're going to have to set an example here. And I just have one little demonstration on how difficult this all is. This gentleman, if I might call him that, although he's currently got a number, he's a federal prisoner, a guy named Victor Gordon, antique dealer, of course, very legitimate guy, was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison and a $150,000 fine. And they found in his collection 1 ton of antique, not antique ivory. And this has been dated, and this all is quite recent, but has been made to look a bit older. So this is how difficult the problem is. I mean, I'm hopeful someday we'll have a very quick kind of test with something, a mass spectrometer or something, and you'll be able to bring in your ivory, and they'll say, oh, yeah, no, that's fine, that's old enough, and we don't have to have arbitrary standards. But this is the problem we're fighting. People like the current guest of the federal government, Mr. Gordon. Hopefully that sets an example to others who would traffic similarly in the U.S. But we also have major problems overseas with corrupt governments. There's a lot of money in this, and a lot of corruption follows that in addition to the violence. We might hear a little bit about that today. And I think I'm hoping that steps beyond what we're discussing today, which needs to be further discussed and refined, can be taken by the U.S., which will go to trade sanctions, meaningful trade sanctions, against countries who knowingly, like China, traffic in these materials. And we've got to hit them hard if we're going to get their attention. And I think the President has the authority under the Pele Act to do that, and I'm going to be organizing a letter to ask him to use that authority. But I'm also looking at legislation to amend the DriftNet Act to also give more authority to use trade sanctions. Quite some number of years ago, I was involved with some illegal whaling by Norway, and I was pretty junior then, but I introduced a bill to sanction them, and it got their attention very quickly. And if we could put together something bipartisan, we can get the attention, I believe, of some of these countries that are facilitating the absolute slaughter of elephants. We're at a point, if this goes on for another 4 or 5 years, we're going to be talking about captive breeding programs for elephants. And in addition to there's also environmental depredation, illegal logging that's affecting elephants. But the slaughter right now is the #1 issue we have to deal with. And I hope we can find a way to come together on that today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.